Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm Chris Horner. In today's episode, I want to finish up the AlUla Tour and Tom Pidcock's ride, along with his teammates from Q36.5. How impressive were they at the AlUla Tour? Well, hopefully by now I'm not giving you a spoiler and you realize that Tom Pidcock has won the general classification there to wrap up his first week-long stage race in the European peloton. Now, I know this isn't Paris-Nice and it's not Tirreno-Adriatico. We're not at the Tour de France. It's not the Basque Country. It's not Tour of Spain and it's not Giro. But when you look at the way Tom Pidcock won here at the AlUla Tour, especially yesterday's stage 4 where he soloed and then went the last 8.5 kilometers on the false flat in to finish and round up the general classification by 29 seconds, it's an impressive ride here at the AlUla Tour. It's not easily done. And when we look at this last stage 5 details, I want to start comparing Q36.5's ride to Bahrain Victorious Keplinger's team. How did they do? And then I want to compare it to Jayco AlUla. I already said in yesterday's video with Tom Pidcock what Jayco AlUla at the Tour Down Under tactically fell apart, and they fell apart on yesterday's final climb of stage 4. So it's quite impressive for a new rider like Tom Pidcock to come over to a new team, a small team, Q36.5, and to see Tom Pidcock ride this impressive and see the whole team is lifted up by the ride of Tom Pidcock's arrival over there at Q36. Now let's compare things and go a little bit into today's stage 5 of the AlUla Tour. Now I fast forward you into 70 kilometers to go when the cameras come on, and we see that the 3 leaders on the general classification, Tom Pidcock, Keplinger from Bahrain Victorious, and Alan Hatherley from Jayco AlUla, all 3 of those guys are near the front at the right time and moments so far as the cameras come on proper, because with 60 kilometers to go, there's pictures of all the guys at the front of the group. But we come into just over 30 kilometers to go with about 31.5, and they're coming through this narrow town, and we start looking at the front of the peloton, and we see Bahrain Victorious is just about 4 or 5 rows over from left to right, lying down the road there with their team of about 5-6 guys there at the front. But you see that it's Keplinger there, Rainer Keplinger, who's sitting second on the general classification. He's at the back. Near him is Alan Hatherley at the back too, and then near Alan Hatherley, just a little further back, that's Eddie Dunbar, both riders from Jayco AlUla. You look up at the front of the peloton over to the left, Jayco AlUla's got 3 riders up there. You start looking over to the right, and about 4th row, horizontal back there, we see about 5 riders from Q36.5. It's not easy to be in the correct position throughout a 100-mile race or a 170-kilometer stage of crosswinds like we have here at the Jayco Tour. But Q36.5 are always near Tom Pidcock race leader. This is the way you want to be. When you know the #1 rule on the butterfly effect, it's never to leave your team leader, and you always want to know where he's at. Okay, we go up a little bit further. There's a right turn coming up. So this is how I'm going to highlight how fantastic of a ride Q36.5 have had throughout the first stages that I've already covered on other videos, and now today's stage. We come out of the right turn, it's crosswinds. X is at the front, they're blowing things up. Eddie Dunbar from Jayco AlUla's off the back already, and he's not going to see the front of the group. This is Jayco AlUla's, one of their star signings here, and he is not up at the front with his team setting an example of a team leader. In fact, he's getting dropped off the back, and we'll never see him again here on stage 5. We go up to the front group. We see Bahrain Victorious is starting to rotate through about 2 kilometers after that right turn with 2 riders on the front. Those 2 riders simultaneously realize that, wow, we don't have our race leader here. So they didn't have eyes on their race leader when I showed you that overhead picture where Keplinger was at the back. Even though they had 5-6 riders at the front, they didn't know their race leader was at the back, and they started to pull through the crosswind sections. This is how complicated it is to actually understand tactically how to ride correctly, and always keep an eye on your race leader. That Bahrain Victorious at this moment, 2 kilometers into the crosswind, are just now starting to figure out that Rainer is not here, and they have 4 guys in this front group. As the camera is panned all the way back, we see the last 4th rider from Bahrain Victorious is swinging on the back of this front group. But then the camera finds a second group. It's Rainer back there. He's got some teammates with him, but as I said, 4 of his teammates are in the front. They have broken the #1 rule on the butterfly effect and beyond the covers. But Q36.5 have not, as they have Tom Pidcock near them the whole time. They have throughout the stages here at the AlUla Tour, and this is the first race of the season for Tom Pidcock. Now we go further back and start looking at Jayco AlUla. They got riders in the front group. 4 riders in the front group. Dylan Groenewegen up there, Max Walscheid is up there, Luca Mezgec is up there, and Renders is up there. That's 4 riders. These 3 are the lead-out guys for this Dylan Groenewegen. The problem is Dylan Groenewegen's not on great form. Tim Miller's already won 2 stages here, and Dylan Groenewegen doesn't look like he's got fantastic shape. So if I'm the director sportif for Jake AlUla, he has split his team numbers up already with 4 guys up there to work for a sprinter that, quite honestly, hasn't looked fantastic. Versus Q36.5, no, they have a sprinter in Machete that could win this stage, but they don't flip over to race him for Machete. They're 100% focused on Tom Pidcock, as Jake AlUla should be sending back those 3 riders to start helping out Alan Hatherley, who's a mountain biker who's just come over here to Jake AlUla, but is going to have a fine result if the stage had finished before that right turn. Now, Alan Hatherley's back there. Eddie Dunbar's already gotten dropped. He's got 4 riders at the front. 1's gotten dropped. That's 5. Alan Hatherley's a 6. That means he's only got 1 guy back there with him. So this is a nightmare scenario. Now the gap goes out to about 10 seconds. Q36.5 again has raced magnificently as we start getting deeper into this crosswind section and the time starts splitting up the road just a little bit between the 2 groups. Q36.5 still have not put their guys on the front with 100% dedication. Did I see Q36.5 guys rotating through from time to time? Absolutely, but Tom Pidcock has never told his guys to go to the front and say drill it. Now why doesn't he tell his team to go to the front? If his team gets on the front and starts drilling it, they can increase that gap and for sure 2nd and 3rd on the general classification are dropped. Well, he doesn't have to. He's got a 29-second buffer after the mistake that Jake AlUla made on yesterday's stage 4 of not bringing the time gap down to Tom Pidcock going solo. So now Tom Pidcock has a 29-second gap on Bahrain victorious Keplinger. He has over 30-second gap on Alan Hatherley, the mountain biker. So Tom Pidcock knows, I don't have to drop these guys. What I have to do is keep my teammates as fresh as possible, because with 30 kilometers to go, with 25 kilometers to go, with 20 kilometers to go, if I was to flat, I got my whole team. My whole team minus the 2 riders who got dropped because I'm sure they worked early in the stage. It was Zukowski that got dropped back there and Elms Limpens that got dropped when the right turn started proper from Q36.5. So that means they're down to 5 guys. But Tom Pidcock knows, if I have a mechanical under 30 kilometers to go, I have 4 guys that still have some kind of fitness to get me back on. Even though one of them's my sprinter, I know he's going to back me 100%. But if I put those 4 guys on the front, or say 3, and keep Machete fresh along with myself, if these 3 riders' legs are pulling on the front and I get a flat or have a mechanical, I'm in big time trouble. But if I keep them fresh and the group comes back together, so what? I got a 29-second gap on 2nd place Keplinger from Bahrain Victoria. So Q36.5 is racing fantastic. And I bring this up because Bahrain Victorious is split up in 2 groups, with some in the front, some in the back, and Jaco are split up with the numbers I've already told you, with Dylan Groenewegen up front and his lead-out guys, and Alan Hatherley, the mountain biker, having no help back there. Well, we go into 22 kilometers to go. I want to show you one impressive move, not related to Tom Pidcock, but it's the old EF Education rider, Stefan de Bod, jumps across this gap as Alan Hatherley and Keplinger are watching him go across. He bridges that gap. Okay, why did I show that? I showed that to you to make it clear, 100% certainly clear, that if in the front group, if Bahrain Victorious and with Jake AlUla drop their riders back there to their leaders on the general classification, 2nd and 3rd, they close this gap up no problem. Instead, they don't. We go under 10 kilometers to go. The gap has increased over 30 seconds. We go into 8 kilometers to go as we finish the last and final lap here of the AlUla Tour. Once the riders come through, the gap has gone up again. At 3.5 kilometers to go, now it's time for Tom Pidcock to go to work, right? He's got Machete as a sprinter. He knows how to give back to his teammates. It's safe for him now to get on the front. He knows if he flats under 3 kilometers to go, he's still going to win the AlUla Tour. And he knows if he keeps the group fast and strung out, Machete's got a chance to win the sprint. So Tom Pidcock goes to the front with under 3 kilometers to go. He's drilling it at the front for his sprinter. This is a magnificent move for Tom Pidcock to show love and return the favor to his teammates to try to help his sprinter win today's stage. As we come into 1 kilometer to go, well, Jake AlUla's on the front with 2 riders. Render had actually flatted with 12 kilometers to go, so he wasn't able to help Dylan Groenewegen, and he wasn't able to help Alan back there in the second group. So there's two Jayco riders on the front. Those two Jayco riders, Max Walscheid's on the front, Luca Mezget's on the front, but Dylan Groenewegen's not even sitting third. He's 6th, 7th wheel just behind Milano back there, Sebastian Milano from UAE Team Immers, as his two teammates are doing the lead out. If you didn't need your two teammates to lead you out to 200 meters to go and you named Dylan Groenewegen, you should have sent him back to Alan to try to close that gap. Instead, they're drilling it at the front. Alan's lost any chance of finishing a podium now in the front, so we're going to focus on the finish here of Stage 5. As they're drilling it, Luca Mezgets looks back. He realizes Dylan Groenewegen is not on his wheel either. Max Walscheid's already finished his pull, so Dylan Groenewegen pulls off right away, and Q36.5 go to work with Machete sitting second wheel. Machete's rider in front's doing a fine job. He'll back off, and we see it's UAE Team Emirates hitting the front with about 450 meters to go. That's Ivo Oliveira on the front and Sebastian Milano sitting second wheel. Ivo does a fine job. Then we see Machete slide back behind the train there, the two-rider train of UAE Team Emirates. As he does, Dylan Groenewegen's coming up from the right side there, but Machete's got the wheel of Sebastian Milano. Milano starts his sprint at about 225, 250 meters to go, and he's going up the left side of Oliveira's teammate in front. As he goes up the left, Dylan's going to be forced to go on the right, and we're going to see Alexander Kristoff from UnoX. He's doing his sprint here too, as his team has ridden for 30 kilometers, full gas to try to get a general classification podium position for their teammates and to try to win the stage. Once Ivo Oliveira, the gentleman lead-out sprinter here, he knows the rules are getting a little bit tighter, so he looks back over his shoulder. He sees Sebastian Milano pass on the left. He could move hard left at this moment, but he knows the rules are getting tighter in the sprinting game, so he's a gentleman. He leaves the gap there for Machete to come up the left side, who gives a little bit of a nudge or a tap shoulder to shoulder there with Ivo, as the other two sprinters, Dylan Groenewegen and Alexander Kristoff, are coming to the right. Sebastian Milano still leading it out down the straight on the left side of the road, but once he comes into 100 meters to go, Machete, Q36.5, goes to work. He hits the pedals hard, passes Milano, wins the stage. Now right behind us, Dylan Groenewegen throwing the bike for second, Sebastian Milano, UAE Team Emirates, for third, and Alexander Kristoff, UnoX, for fourth. I mentioned Alexander Kristoff, even though he didn't get a podium, because UnoX did a big-time ride here, so Alexander Kristoff's ride to get fourth was worth showing. Up front, though, it's Machete that celebrates for Q36.5. Not their first, not their second, but their third stage win here at the AlUla Tour. They'll take home the general classification with Tom Pidcock, and he'll take the points jersey, too, for winning his two stages. So with that in mind, Q36.5, when you compare them to Jayco AlUla, and you start to compare them, of course, over there to Bahrain Victorious, they were fantastic in their delivery, every one of the stages. It's a small pro team that's racing. They don't have a huge budget. Got a good budget because they can afford to pay Tom Pidcock, but they don't have the Ineos budget that Tom Pidcock came from. And so when you look at their tactics and how they raced throughout the 5 days, it was spot on. Tom Pidcock, tip of the hat here from the Butterfly Effect and Beyond the Coverage. I love the racing that I saw this week out of you. You said your 5-minute power has gone up, the best you've seen, and your 10-minute power, which means your form should be better. We might see something different out of Tom Pidcock than we've ever seen in years past. And when he won Amstel Gold, he was fantastic. When he won the Strada Bianche, he was amazing. If his form has gotten better than those two wins, we could see the British rider on the same kind of level as Remco Evenepoel. Tadej Pogacar level? Well, I'm not going that far out there. But could you see that all of a sudden Tom Pidcock's able to follow the wheel of Remco Evenepoel at Liège-Bastogne-Liège? Remember, years past he couldn't. But now if his levels come up, we could start seeing some fantastic racing from Tom Pidcock once the European peloton starts. I'm sitting up here on the podium hoping that's what we're seeing, is a fifth rider that can ride with the four best riders in the world, Remco Evenepoel, Jonas Vingegaard, Tadej Pogacar, and Primož Roglič. We might have to add a fifth if Tom Pidcock's 5-minute, 10-minute power has actually gotten better. But we're going to have to wait till he gets over to the European side before we know for sure. Either way, I'll keep an eye on him. I'll let you guys know. So hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next video real soon.